Hey there everyone, AJ back again for the mighty Gluestick channel. I make videos about Dungeons & Dragons lore full time and have a huge collection of videos for you to binge watch, and I upload 2 new videos per week usually, with a live stream every week as well. If you like what I do, please consider becoming a member of the channel by clicking the join button down below, or backing me on Subscribestar or Patreon, where you can get access to all of the scripts I write for these vids if you prefer to read what I'm saying. I also have a Discord server with an active community, and of course, subscribe to the channel. The Banshee is not an invention of Dungeons & Dragons. It stems from Gaelic folklore, mainly. There's a bit of Norse and Scottish. It is a female spirit that predicts the death of someone, manifesting as the spirit hunched over the blood-stained clothing or armour of the person who is about to die, uttering the high-pitched keening moan that the Banshee is famous for. Now, some accounts place her as a fae spirit, others place her in the category of ghost, but all accounts have that dreadful crying lament in common. Dungeons & Dragons Banshees, also known as groaning spirits, appeared in the first monster manual for the game, as shown here. They were described thus. The groaning spirit, or Banshee, is a spirit of an evil female elf, a very rare thing indeed. The spirit returns to harm the living. It is found only in desolate countrysides, moors, etc. The groaning spirit can attack by its chilling touch, causing 1 to 8 hit points of damage per attack when it strikes. Its more fearsome mode of attack, however, is its wail, or keening, which can cause the heroes within 3 inches, which is 30 feet, to save versus magic or die on the spot. The sight of a groaning spirit causes fear unless an appropriate saving throw is made. It can wail but once per day, and only during darkness. Groaning spirits cannot be affected by charm, sleep, or hold spells. They are impervious to attack by cold or electricity, while exorcism kills them. That is similar in most ways to the modern version of the Banshee we find in 5th edition, though some of the details have changed a little bit. For example, the touch attack is not cold anymore, it causes necrotic, rot damage. Still, the wail can be used once per day, and the horrifying visage still only serves to frighten the living. One new feature that the 5th edition Banshee has can sense the direction towards living creatures up to 5 miles away, which can be quite useful in combination with other undead or many magical effects. If other creatures do hope to make use of the Banshee, they do come with some severe limitations, which in my mind puts them firmly in the category of a ghost. The existence of a groaning spirit is very much tied into who they were in life and the curse of their undead fate. Banshee are, and have always been, in D&D at least, elven spirits. In life, they've had the unearthly beauty of their fae heritage, but unfortunately, it was only skin deep, and they were twisted, manipulative, and evil individuals who used their attractiveness like a spider uses a web. Instead of bringing light to the world, they brought only misery and pain, seeing the worth in others only in regard to their usefulness and getting what they wanted. They would take sick pleasure in corrupting others and controlling them, as doing so fed into their limitless vanity. Perhaps it's the elven gods, perhaps it's some aspect of the elven spirit and their ability to reincarnate, but through whatever medium, a Banshee is a cursed soul who cannot or will not pass over into the afterlife. They will not give up their identity to become a new elven individual. Their vanity and ego makes that prospect worse than death in their mind. The 5th edition entry on the Banshee states, "The vanity that inspired the Banshee's cursed creation persists in undeath. These creatures covet beautiful things, fine jewellery, paintings, statues, and other objects of art. At the same time, a Banshee abhors any mirrored surface, for it can't bear to see the horror of its own existence. A single glimpse of itself is enough to send a Banshee into a rage." The reason, of course, is because they're hideous. Their fine bone structure is now starkly visible, their flesh withered, their once lustrous hair now a tangle wild around their face, twisted with an expression of exaggerated sorrow and hatred. Their once fine garments now nothing more than fluttering rags that waft in the breeze of the ethereal. The other terrible aspect of this fate is that it's not just something that happens after the elven woman died. It actually begins to afflict them before their death, so that they know what fate they are doomed to in the last feverish and agony-filled days of their life. As all the joy leaves them, they become increasingly aware that their beauty is literally rotting away from them, and they see all the vicious, nasty pity and scorn they once heaped on others now reflected back at them in the eyes of every living person they meet, until finally, cursed and alone, they die in the most horrible way. Unable to pass on, unable to confront their own wretched corpse, just a wafting spirit that continues to take out its spite and anger on the living. Banshees can't leave the area in which they died, which usually extends to a 5-mile radius around their mortal remains. As they drift in and out of the border ethereal plane, they see a mixture of both the present and the past, with scenes from their own life replaying over and over. Of course, they can't learn from their mistakes and are only capable of concentrating on how beautiful they were, how stupid and spiteful others were to them, how nothing was their fault, how they deserved all that they had in life and more. They are just as deluded in death as they were in life. Those who venture into the domain of the Banshee had best only do it during the hours of daylight, as at night the creatures become much more dangerous. First, they're chaotic evil. They are only capable of seeing themselves as the victim and all other living creatures as hateful abusers who did this to her. The Banshee may converse with a living being. They can speak Elven and the common tongue, but the conversation will make it very clear that the Banshee is psychotic and the mortals are in grave danger. Ghosts have almost no ability to tell the present from the past. They frequently confuse strangers for people who they knew in their life, and will become full of rage, screaming out names and horrible things done to them at the hands of these individuals, probably long since dead and gone, but forever tormenting the Banshee in her cursed state. The first sight of a Banshee is unforgettable, but not in a good way. She will be well aware that living creatures are approaching, and true to her narcissistic and manipulative nature, she'll go to a certain position and affect a certain posture, playing out some dramatic scenario in her mind based on something that's happened to her in her past. Usually this will be a confrontation with someone who she thought she trusted to see past her cursed affliction, who reacted with revulsion and shattered her last hope of redemption. So at first, the Banshee may not seem so dangerous, just a softly glowing figure draped in gossamer fabrics, long hair, slim, perhaps even humming a lovely song. But when the living get within 60 feet of her, she'll turn and confront them all, unleashing her full, horrific visage on them. Each non-undead creature within 60 feet of the Banshee who can see her must succeed on a DC 13 Wisdom saving throw or be frightened for 1 minute. A frightened target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns with disadvantage if the Banshee is still within line of sight, ending the effect on itself on a success. If the target's saving throw is successful, or the effect ends for it, the target's immune to the Banshee's horrifying visage for the next 24 hours. This seems to work during the day or night. If it is daylight, she will then lunge through the air and attempt to scratch out the eyes of any who keep looking at her. The necrotic touch of the Banshee is +4 to hit and inflicts 3d6 +2 necrotic damage. She will always attempt to cause disfiguring wounds to the living. I would suggest, if the Banshee scores a critical hit, have the target roll a Constitution saving throw DC 13 or be blinded, recovering their sight if they receive any magical healing or first aid, or if they manage to make another Constitution saving throw at the start of their turn. If it is dark, the Banshee will approach within 30 feet, wafting through the air at 40 feet per round. They drift and hover, moving without any apparent effort and passing through objects as if they were not there. Banshees may avoid passing through walls and objects that existed when they were alive. It's as if they remember them being obstacles, but will float right through anyone new. And once in range, the Banshee will unleash its wail. The wail has no effect on constructs and undead. All other creatures within 30 feet of her that can hear her must make a DC 13 Constitution saving throw. On a failure, the creature drops to 0 hit points. On a success, the creature takes 3d6 psychic damage. The Banshee is no fool. She has an intelligence of 12 and a wisdom of 11, so she will single out any creature that has dropped to 0 hit points and attempt to touch them to make sure they are dead. A Banshee is not interested in tactics. She's fighting in a state of rage and hatred. She wants to hurt, frighten, and kill. Because the Banshee is incorporeal, she fights without regard to taking damage herself, as most of the time she feels nothing. She's immune to cold, poisons, and necrotic damage. She takes half damage from acid, fire, lightning, thunder. Any damage from non-magical attacks is halved. She can't be charmed, exhausted, frightened, grappled, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, knocked prone, or restrained. However, she can take damage from sustained attacks, or ending up stuck inside an object for too long, as she takes 1d10 force damage if she ends her turn inside a solid object, including another creature. The Banshee might drop through the floor or leap up through the roof to get away from serious harm, but she can't go far. Even if she is fleeing, she can go no further than 5 miles in any direction. I think combining a Banshee with ghosts of those she has caused the death of in life makes an excellent encounter. It makes sense, combined with a haunted house that shifts in and out of the Shadowfell, so echoes of the past may be hallucinations or may become shockingly real, with a dark and monstrous twist. Dealing with a Banshee wail that attracts the unwanted attention of some natives of the Shadowfell can make for a very interesting fight, and the threat of being dragged out of the haunted house and ending up in the actual Shadowfell should be enough to put anyone on edge. Please hit the like button if you made it this far. Subscribe if you like what I do. Check out my Subscribestar or Patreon for links for all the full scripts for these videos. Buy some Teespring merchandise, wear your geek with pride, and as always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.